afternoon and welcome to Create a Consistent Voiceover Business webinar. In today's webinar, Bill DeWees will outline current voiceover market realities and present a realistic plan to create a consistently growing and sustainable income. I'd like to introduce our host today, Bill DeWees. He is a full-time voiceover talent that lives near Chicago. He has been working full-time as a voice talent since 2006. Bill's credits include Microsoft, American Express, Warner Brothers, BIC, Monster.com, PBS, Chevrolet, Butterball, Arm & Hammer, LG Electronics, Purina, and thousands more. Bill's career began as a professional copywriter over 30 years ago. His copywriting and marketing communication experience laid a strong foundation for all that is to follow. His career path has included extensive media work, primarily in radio and some television, as an on-air talent, program director, and station manager. Bill was a regional director for a Chicago consulting firm, where he met with business owners to identify and troubleshoot business challenges. He's also worked with various industries as an independent marketing consultant. A major turning point came for Bill when he was accepted an invitation to become a college professor, where he taught undergraduates in media communication and grad students in marketing and business communications. Bill currently holds an MBA and has conducted doctoral level work in training and performance improvements with Acapella University. Bill has a combined passion for both performance and education. After receiving numerous requests from voiceover talent for coaching and consulting, he began working in voiceover training in addition to his recording schedule about 2 years ago. Voice-over-training.org is the website Bill has created with the mission of equipping, encouraging, empowering, and inspiring voiceover talent to achieve their voiceover goals. So for today's agenda, we're going to take a look at the old VO model and how it's dead. We'll take a look at VO lottery versus VO marketing plan, the product precedes marketing, what is marketing, how to hire an assistant to increase your income, and also how to think clients, not jobs. Focus on dollars, not dollars per job. Don't neglect the back end. And then also we'll look at To Infinity and Beyond and Tenacity trumps talent. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest today, Bill DeWees.
Ashley, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you today. And my special thanks to not only you, but Voices.com for providing this opportunity and the role that you guys play in helping to build voice-over careers. And also, for those of you who have tuned in to listen to information that I know that you hope will help you in some way to build your voiceover career and your voiceover business, my promise to you is to give you usable, useful, actionable content. If you know me at all, I'm not about fluff. I'm not about filling time with hot air. I will give you as much solid, usable content as I possibly can. And of course, there'll be time at the end of this for questions. So, when I thought it might be appropriate just to give you an idea of my transition into this whole thing of voiceovers, and I appreciate Ashley giving you a little bit of my background so you can get a sense of my journey from where I've been, doing radio, a little bit TV, being a business consultant, a market professor, a regional director for a consulting firm, a little bit of this and that and the other, and being a copywriter, which, by the way, really laid a great foundation for me and really in all that I've done, including being a voiceover talent. And when I transitioned into this role, really, as I'm talking to you today, as a voiceover coach and a voiceover trainer, I have to tell you, in all honesty, I was, and to some extent continue to be, the reluctant voice coach. It wasn't my intent at all to do that when I first launched into my voiceover career in 2006. As a matter of fact, it wasn't on my radar at all, not at all. And I was very happy and very content, to grow my business, which, I just felt very fortunate, very blessed that things had gone so well. And the newspaper here locally where I live wanted to do a story on me a couple of years ago. And so they came in, took some pictures of me in my studio, which at that time was in the closet of the master bedroom of our home. So here I am in the studio, a microphone in my face, surrounded by clothes. And so it's a big human interest story on the Sunday paper. And I thought, that was nice. And I got some nice comments from some neighbors and friends here in the area. And then all of a sudden I started getting phone calls and emails from people outside of here. I mean, from literally around the country. And before I know it, I just had people were continually asking me and contacting me saying, I heard what you're doing, and how are you doing it? And so I got to the point where I really couldn't ignore it any longer. And as I really looked carefully at the voiceover industry, and there are some incredible voiceover coaches, and especially on the talent end of things, just some amazing people. And but what I saw being taught in terms of the business end and the marketing end, I just knew it, for the most part, it was just a very outdated model that just wasn't working for most people. And it really started to, irritate me to the point where I was ready to do something about it. Because in all honesty, I didn't need the extra work. I was working full-time plus. You know what it's like being a voiceover talent. It's a full-time job plus, to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So why would I take on that? But I think at the end of the day, and I heard this quoted once, and I think it's so true, that we are not what we do, but we do what we are. And at heart, I'm a teacher. I loved being, as a program director, being a talent coach in media. As a business consultant, I loved coaching business owners and marketing directors on how to build, their businesses. As a radio station programmer and manager, I loved building ratings and station revenue. And deep inside of who I am, in the core of my DNA, I'm a builder and I am a teacher. So I guess it was inevitable that at some point that I would end up doing what I'm doing today, and I'm very excited to do that. So a couple of things to keep in mind as we move forward. As I started this journey off, I did what everybody would do, right? I went to Google, a little bit of YouTube and a lot of Google, and I started researching. I tried to find out, whatever I could, tried to gather all the information I could. I was listening to every guru I could. I went to, I signed up with Voices.com. I listened to all their podcasts. I was a sponge trying to get all of the information that I could, which did lay a pretty good foundation for me, although I did struggle quite a bit early on in a number of ways. And what I figured out over time was that the knowledge that I already knew from being, a business person and a marketing consultant, that information did not become irrelevant when I transitioned into the voiceover industry. As a matter of fact, that was just as relevant in the different industries that I had worked in as it was with voiceovers. And it was at the point that I understood and I accepted that and I began to implement it into my own business and my own career that things really began to explode in my voiceover business. And it was very, very contrary to a lot of what I was hearing, being espoused and communicated in terms of building a voiceover business. And so like I said, I became very happy just to kind of do my thing and be under the radar. Very few people would know who I am. And I just sit in my 3x5 whisper room all day and was very happy to make a very good living and to record, a lot of projects. And within that first year, by the end of the first year, I was generating consistently over $2,000 a week, which I was thrilled with. And since then, I've more than doubled that. I've literally quintupled my salary from back when I was working in radio. And I don't say that to say, well, look what I've done. I say that to say, this is what you can do if you understand the marketplace. And again, what we'll be doing here over the next few minutes is equipping you with the information to do that. You have to understand a couple of things, I think, as you move forward with your voiceover business and into the voiceover industry. And that is, why do you do this? What is it you're hoping to accomplish? And if your primary goal is to get awards and peer recognition and to become a name that people, know and respect as a voiceover talent. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, or being, one of the main influencers in social media circles, within the voiceover social media circles. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not what I do. And I guess I want to make that very clear that what we're talking about today is a plan to help you generate income. Now, if you win awards, if you become well respected within your peer group of voiceover talent, if all of these other things come your way, it's purely secondary. But my goal had always been from the beginning, and my goal as I work with voiceover talent is to simply help you make money as a voice talent, to help you support yourself, to support your families, to make this more than a part-time effort, to make it more than a hit and miss. And I talk to a lot of voice talent who, they may have the big gig today, and you may get the big national spot today, you make tens of thousands of dollars. But what if you don't get another, gig until next year? You still got to go find another, quote-unquote real job to support you and your family. So that's the information. That's the kind of content that we're talking about today. And this is not, I want you to know that voiceover is not exclusive to a few. It's very inclusive, because the model that we're often taught about voiceover, the model's dead. And what the old model, and think of models as maps, of the territory. And the map that many people are looking at, it's simply outdated. And there's a reason for that. Technology. Technology has completely blown this thing wide open. It's a game changer. And that may sound familiar because it's not just a voiceover thing, it's a business thing. Business has changed dramatically over the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Technology has lowered the barrier to entry. It has made it easy for people to get involved in not only this business, but a lot of different businesses. But let's talk specifically about voiceovers. The way the old voiceover model was established was that there was a gatekeeper, and that gatekeeper was typically the agent. And the agent, for the most part, now there were exceptions to this, as there are to any rule, but generally speaking, if you wanted to have a successful voiceover career, your agent was the gatekeeper. In other words, if you wanted to have a career, if you wanted to make money as a voice talent, you had to have an agent, a good agent, hopefully. And that agent would give you access to jobs through auditions. But you had to be available during the day to go into their office or into the studio to audition. And then, if all went well, you're sitting in that office or studio waiting to audition against 50 or 100 other people. If you were fortunate enough to get the job, well, then you had to come back again during business hours to a recording studio to record, which meant it made it very difficult to have a traditional career or job. You had to kind of, wait tables or have something that would allow you the flexibility to pursue this voiceover dream. And that model is dead and it's gone. But I see the majority of voiceover talent continue to pursue to build their career that way. Let me share with you a brief story. A couple of weeks ago, received a call from a lady in Los Angeles, and I won't share her name, but this lady is... She emailed me and said, I really need to talk to you. I need help with my voiceover career, which is not unusual. I get emails like that every day. But what was unusual is I went to her website, I realized that this lady was not just anybody. She was a world-class talent. I mean, she had a world-class website. Her demo was killer. She was represented by one of the most prestigious talent agencies in the country, if not the world, Abrams Artists. And so I knew what the story was, because believe me or not, this is not an unusual story. This story is an example, or very much reflective of many of the stories that I get, on a daily and weekly basis. So Mary's her name. So I'm talking to Mary. So Mary, I mean, you're an incredible talent. Your demo is there's nothing I can say to criticize or to give you any feedback that would help you in terms of what you're doing, what I see with in terms of your talent. She said, and I said, so how many jobs have you gotten in the past 2 years since you've been represented by Abrams Artists? Her answer was 0. And that was the frustration. But understand, that's the model. You get an agent and you compete within that arena until you get a job. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, and that should certainly be a part of your, of your business plan. It's certainly a part of mine. I have 16 agents, but if I had to rely on what I get from my agents for my work, I would have to get another job to supplement my income, because it accounts for a single digit in terms of percentage, a lower single digit number, in terms of my total income comes through the work that I get from my agent. So the reality that you have to understand in this new voiceover model is that you now have to be your own best agent. You are the one who has to be in control. So let's talk about the voiceover lottery versus voiceover marketing. And, and I touched on that. If you follow the traditional model, it is a crapshoot at best, because what you're doing is you're relying on your ability to compete against the top talent in the country for every job that you get. Now, you certainly want to compete at that level whenever you can, and certainly I do, but I understand from experience that, the odds of getting those jobs are very small. And you may get them on occasion, but it's a very tough way to build a career. And I always tell people that's like, basing your retirement plan on buying lottery tickets. It's great to do, and I would never discourage anybody from pursuing their dream. Go for it, and certainly be represented by the best agent or agents that you possibly can. But that in itself is not a marketing plan. You need a marketing plan that's based on return on investment, ROI. You have to manage your mindset and expectations and know that you're not going to hit this overnight. This takes a commitment over months, sometimes years. You have to understand that rejection is a daily part of this, and it is your friend, because unless you're getting rejected, it means you're not out putting yourself out there, and you're not trying to do the things that you need to do. And, they say in baseball, if you get 3 hits out of 10, if you bat 300, you're an all-star. Well, in voiceovers, if you can bat 300, my goodness, you are a megastar. Most of us have numbers that are far less than that. So you have to understand all of these things up front and accept all of these things up front, and then begin to move forward knowing these things so that you condition your mind so that you don't burn out, because that's what I see maybe more than anything else. And that is talent that jump into this and they're excited as they should be. They're full of expectation as they should be. And then they bang their head against a wall for a few weeks, a few months, maybe if they're really tenacious, a couple of years. And then it's all over. They just can't take it anymore. Well, let me introduce you to what I call the 90-10 rule, just to begin to help you understand ways that you can begin to approach the marketplace. The 90-10 rule is this. There are a couple of aspects to this, and that is 10 or 90% of the work is the work that most people don't go after. For instance, if the voiceover industry is represented by an iceberg, and you're looking at an iceberg out on the ocean, the tip of that iceberg, that's what everybody sees of the voiceover industry. If you were to go to the man or woman on the street and say, what do you think of when you say voiceovers? They would say things like movie trailers, national TV commercials, promos on TV, or maybe character voices, in a major, animated feature kind of program, a TV show or movie. But that only represents maybe 10% of the work out there. And by the way, it's the most competitive part of the business. And I would never recommend you against you competing in that market. I certainly do. And occasionally you might even win and get a really nice job doing that. But what you need to understand, if you want to build a sustainable career, is to know that the 90% of the work is beneath the surface. It's the stuff that most people don't talk about because maybe you don't think of it as being as glamorous or as sexy as the rest of the voiceover business because you don't win awards for doing that stuff. And not everybody knows your name when you do that kind of stuff. But there are many other aspects of the voiceover business. Corporate narration, training narration. I would say probably 70% of my workload is narration type work. There are not only national ads, there are regional ads, there are local ads. Because of technology and how cheap media is, everybody's a media producer. There are a ton of YouTube videos that are used by smaller companies than ever before who need voiceover talent to narrate those. The audiobook market, my goodness, I could talk for an hour about that. It is an exploding market. So begin to readjust your thinking and not only go for that top 10% that's visible, the movie trailers, the animation work, and the national ads, but also begin to understand that the bulk of the work is beneath the surface, and there is a lot of it. A couple of things you need to keep in mind as you begin to put your marketing plan together, and that is that product precedes marketing. In other words, if you put the cart before the horse and you begin marketing yourself and promoting yourself before you have some basic things in mind, it becomes an exercise in futility. And whenever I consult a voiceover talent, these are three things that I always hit on before we talk about anything else, because I see people skip past this, trying to get to the part where they're recording jobs and they're making money. But if you don't have this stuff together, then you're going to find that the rest of your efforts are really not all that productive. Let's talk about product. First of all, let's make sure that your studio is where it needs to be. And again, this is not a webinar on studios, and there are people far more qualified than I to talk about such things. But you need to work with an expert or somebody who can give you the proper feedback to know that the audio quality of what you're doing is up to snuff, that it's competitive, that you are using a large diaphragm studio microphone, that you're using a good preamp, that the audio quality sounds competitive. Because if it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how good your marketing materials are. You're not going to get work. You're dead in the water before you even start. And I understand these things cost money. And so you don't necessarily have to spend a fortune to get a good studio. My first studio, I kid you not, I had $300 into it total. And I was recording national ads in there. Now, believe me, as soon as I was generating income, I upgraded as quickly as I could. So I'm not necessarily advocating spending a small fortune, but I'm saying get the proper equipment to make sure that your sound, by sound I mean the technical sound, the audio quality is competitive. That's where you start. Next, you got to make sure you got the performance skills. I hope you never think that I am promoting the idea that if you're good enough at marketing, you'll be successful. Well, there are a couple of elements to being successful in voiceovers. Certainly, marketing is big, and that's what we're talking about today. But you got to make sure you've got the skill set when you get into the marketplace. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the best of the best to do that, but you need a good, solid base from which to work. You need to understand what agents, what casting directors, what clients are looking for. You need to know some basic read styles, and you need to be able to perform those. And the best way to do that is to work with a professional who can give you the proper feedback to help you do that. And if anybody is listening who's coming from a radio background, I want to strongly encourage you to find somebody to work with, because casting directors and agents can smell radio people a mile away. And hey, I know, because I was a radio person. And, I still fight bad habits. And again, that's another hour discussion we won't get off to. But don't neglect this part. So you need the technical quality, you need the performance skills. And then whatever you do not overlook this step. And that is to have a competitive demo. One of the biggest mistakes that I do see talent make, especially if they have any kind of background in media at all, is that they do their own demo. Either that, or they use a friend or a cousin or somebody who has a little bit of background in audio, and they think that qualifies them to produce their demo. And nothing could be further from the truth. And if you're going to spend some money, and you need to spend some money, certainly do it on your studio, and then do it on your demo. A demo also, in addition to giving you the product that you need to market yourself, you learn a lot. When you work with a good demo producer, you learn a lot about what's expected of you in the studio, and in terms of performance behind the microphone, working with a good director. And also understand that if I'm looking at the equation of success the marketing equation of success for voiceovers, I'm putting 90+% of the weight on the demo. It is the demo that will open up doors, or it will not open up doors. In other words, if all things being equal, if you got everything else and your demo is poorly done or it's substandard, doors will not open. Auditions will not become available to you. Your demo, more than any other single thing, will present you with opportunities. Now, it doesn't guarantee you work. It's like, I remember being a college professor, students thinking that once they graduated and had their bachelor's degree, that guaranteed them a job. And I would always say, no. What it probably will get you is a seat at the table for an interview. Well, your demo gets you a seat at the table for an audition. It may not, it may, but most times it won't guarantee you a job. But what it will get you, audition opportunities. And as voiceover talent, that is precisely what you need. You simply need opportunities. So don't neglect these areas, because without these, the marketing doesn't mean a whole lot. Website. Today, most clients don't want to be sent files. Now, it's not always true, not 100% true, but most times, most agencies and most clients and casting directors want to be sent to your website. So all I'm going to say about that, because again, this is another 1 hour discussion, is that your website needs to be simple, clean, professional, and remember, in any marketing activity that you do, you should have one primary objective. So whenever you're doing any kind of marketing, ask yourself the question, what is it I want to accomplish with this marketing activity? And with your website, your objective should be to get the visitor to listen to your demo. That's it. The demo, if they like you, if they like your demo, they might give you a shot at a job. If they don't like your demo, well, that's a whole other story. But don't distract them with long descriptions about your studio, with long biographies, with long explanations of this, that, and the other. Make sure they get to your demo and that they don't have to multiple click to listen to it. They should be able to click once on your main site, on your main page, and listen to it immediately and then be able to contact you. Certainly that information needs to be there. Secondary to that, testimonials and credits are good, but the only purpose of those is to get them to listen to your demo. That is the primary objective of a website. So that's something to keep in mind. Now let's talk about marketing. What is marketing? Well, marketing is simply creating awareness of yourself. If you don't remember anything else during this hour, remember this. People do not remember you. And it's not because you're a bad person or you're not memorable or that you're not wonderful, because I'm sure you are. I mean, we all like to think that, we're a bit unique and we hope that people would remember us. But trust me, in all my years in business, I know that people are busy. They've got 1,000,001 distractions throughout the course of the day. And while your efforts in marketing yourself as a voice talent, that's a big deal to you and it's very central in your mind, it's not central in the people that you're marketing to. Not that they don't like you. It's just that they don't remember. Again, they've got 1,000 other things to remember. So marketing is not only getting in front of somebody. It's like, think of it as hitting the radar. It's like jumping up and waving your arms. Hey, I'm here. And certainly you want that impression to be a positive one. A negative one won't work to your favor in voiceovers. So it's a positive impression. We want them to become aware that you're there and that they think good things about you. But marketing is an ongoing process. Because think of it this way. It's almost like you pop on somebody's radar. And within minutes, hours, if you're lucky, maybe days, you'll be there. But then you disappear off the radar. And you have to be intentional about getting back on the radar again. And on the radar again. And on the radar again. Because hopefully one of those times when you hit their radar, it's the time when they are looking for a voiceover talent. And hopefully a voiceover talent like you. But if you've sent one postcard, you made one phone call, you sent one email, well, if the stars didn't align at that moment and they didn't need somebody at that time, trust me, you're forgotten after that. One of the greatest revelations to me was I do a monthly communication to I keep a database of prospects. And I started doing it several years back on a monthly basis as opposed to like quarterly. And immediately after this first email that I sent out, I got an email back from a client that I hadn't heard from in years. And he said, I am so glad you emailed me. I've got this project. I was just thinking about you. I thought you'd be perfect for this, but I couldn't remember your name. Of course, my thought is, you couldn't remember my name? How could you not remember my name? But that's the way it is. People don't remember you. They don't remember me, so it's on us to make sure that they do remember. It's not on them. It's on us. So marketing is creating awareness so that they don't forget about you. And it's not just in getting the job. It's in getting additional jobs after that. And it's in collecting your money on the back end as well, which we'll touch base on in just a bit. Everything you do, think in terms of it being a marketing activity. It's another chance to create an impression. It's another chance to get on in somebody's consciousness, to get on their radar. And the more you can do that in a positive way, the greater your likelihood of being hired. Now, another question I'm asked about a lot is niche or broad-based approach in marketing myself as a voice talent. What should I do? Traditional marketing wisdom says that niche marketing is the most effective, and there is a lot of truth to that. I taught that, I consulted that, I've lived that, and I understand that concept. But in the voiceover market, I just want to share my experience, and as I've worked with other voiceover talent, I really have taken a broad-based approach in my marketing. Reason for that is that most of us don't really know exactly what we excel at or will excel at as we begin our voiceover career. Hey, I've been doing this now for about almost 7 years, and I'm still learning about myself. I just found out a couple of weeks ago, this is kind of funny, just to illustrate the point, received an email from an agent in Europe that there's a new TV network in Asia getting ready to go online or go on the air. And come to find out, I had been chosen as one of the 3 finalists to be the voice of this network. And they wanted a custom audition. They found me through my demo. I was shocked. I'm not a network voice. I mean, that's not my niche. I never thought of myself as that. I've never promoted myself as that. Although I do have a promo demo, and I'm assuming that's what they listen to, but I've never promoted myself or marketed myself in that way. Never felt that was really my strength, but yet here, this big network going up in Asia, thought I was good enough to be considered one of their top 3 prospects. And I haven't heard back on that. So, I mean, I get it, but that's not the point. The point is somebody, I mean, in a very big entity, TV network, thought that I was competitive in that realm. So what I've found that is as I've stuck my toe in the water in audiobooks and in promo, well, not so much promos, but a lot of narration, training narration, corporate narration, all kinds of commercials, just about every kind of voiceover that you can imagine. I've gotten work in just about all of those areas, but I have found out over time, and I guess this is what I'm trying to say, I would recommend starting marketing yourself broadly. And by the way, from a lot of this stuff, your commercial demo will do just fine. Most of the work that I get hired, regardless of what it is off the strength of my commercial demo. Over time, you begin to develop, and you realize what you're good at and what you're not good at, and more importantly than what you realize is what your clients will let you know. And the way clients let you know is in what they hire you for or what they don't hire you for, and that allows you to begin to see from the perspective of your clients what they see in you as being good. The market will always tell you what you're good at and what you're not good at. So allow that. If you feel that you must develop a niche, and by the way, like I said, after 7 years and making quite a bit of money doing this, I do not define myself narrowly at all. I literally do it all, and that's what allows me to make a very good living doing this. But if you do become niche, don't decide it early on. Allow the marketplace to tell you, and make sure that you focus on where the work is, which we touched on a few minutes ago, not where it isn't. Because if you focus all of your energy on the 10% of the market, animation, movie trailers, network TV spots, then it's a crapshoot, it's the lottery, and it's not a business plan, and it's a very tough way to make a living. I realized after about 2 years into my business that this is, and I'm sure many of you realize this as well, it's there's a lot to do. When it's a one-person gig and you're your own, chief cook and bottle washer and audio editor and voiceover talent, and you're running the office and you're doing invoicing and billing. And if you do things properly, at some point you're going to need to find help. And what I want you to understand is this: there are only 2 activities. There are only 2 activities that make you money. One is when you are recording behind the microphone. The other is when you're marketing yourself. Those are the only 2 activities that directly put money in your pocket: recording and marketing. Now, it doesn't mean those are the only things that are essential, because there are a number of other essential activities to run a business. But those are the only activities that directly make you money. Everything else is an expense. And I learned early on that it was less expensive for me to hire somebody to edit my audio, to interact for the most part with my clients, to do invoicing, billing, receivables, essentially running my office. And now, because of the workload that I have, which is a very big workload, and by the way, it's my daughter. I have a daughter who works for me full time, and she schedules my day, and she's the one who keeps me on tasks. And the work comes in so fast and furious through the day that she has to make sure that I'm always working on the right projects and that I understand what the deadlines are and that I'm getting out what I need to get done in time so that she can edit it and get out the door. So it's become quite a big operation. And a point that I kind of skipped over, and I need to back up a little bit because this is pretty critical to your marketing plan. We're talking about a volume approach. If you want to make money as a voiceover talent, I think you need to think broadly, and I think you need to think volume. And let's talk specifically at the areas where you can market yourself. I touched on agents, and certainly agents give you access to auditions. Don't rely solely on agents, but I've got agents. Like I said, I've got 16 across the country, in Canada and in Europe, and over time, I've cultivated my relationship to the point now that I make some steady income. It's not the majority of my income, but that's one aspect. Certainly, pay-to-play sites, Voices.com. Some of my best clients I picked up through Voices.com. And what you're looking for as a voiceover talent are opportunities. One of the things I really like about Voices.com is that they do not penalize you for the number of auditions that you do. And when you're starting off early on, 90%, this is the other half of the 90-10 rule, 90% of your time is spent marketing, 10% recording. And actually it might be closer to 95-5. But as time goes by, that does begin to switch, but you've got to be spending 90 to 95% of your time auditioning. I mean, that's what's required. And again, I think Voices.com is a great resource for that. And then over time, as you begin to cultivate clients, that begins to flip-flop to where you're spending 10% marketing and 90% recording. So, pay-to-play sites like Voices.com are excellent for that. Craigslist. And whenever I say that, people say, Craigslist? And absolutely. I'll tell you what. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to find, Craigslist has become the marketplace, right? For this, that, and the other, for everything. It only stood to reason that you would be able to find voiceover work eventually on Craigslist. Now, it doesn't mean it's there every day, and it doesn't mean everything on there that you would be interested in. I mean, you get all kinds of junk on there, and you've got to learn to weed through it. It's like, I liken it to panning for gold, and you really have to do it consistently to pan for gold. But I've actually found national work. I was hired to record a Shaun White snowboarders video game commercial through Craigslist, believe it or not. The same client ended up hiring me for a Budweiser job and also for an American Express job. That all came through Craigslist. So that's something else that I recommend leveraging and using to your advantage. Your biggest source of prospective clients are going to be multimedia production companies. And I recommend using Mandy.com to find. Mandy.com is probably the most comprehensive directory of video production and multimedia production companies in the world. And I have just systematically marketed myself through there. I do a lot of emails. I've done a lot of cold calls. I just call directly and say, just act stupid, because essentially I am when I call and say, I'm a voiceover talent. I don't know who I should talk to, but can you put me in touch with the person who's in charge of hiring voice talent for your company? And I've got some great clients that way. The audiobook market is exploding. If you're in the U.S., acx.com is where you need to go right now. Well, not right now when this is done. And sign up for your free account and begin auditioning today. And for those of you who are out of the U.S., I do apologize. And I'm hoping that Amazon and ACX will be able to open up the doors to those outside of the U.S. But regardless, the audiobook market is exploding. I mean, there's so much work out there. I just finished my 36th audiobook, and I turned down audiobook work. There's just so much of it out there. And so that's another area, to look in. So what I'm advocating here is to attack the marketplace, because you need a high volume approach. It's not going to be good enough to get one or two or three clients. You're going to need multiple clients. The idea is when you wake up in the morning and you look at the inbox of your email account, you want there to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 jobs waiting for you. And I encourage you to think beyond clients, or rather to think beyond jobs to just clients, because most of us, approach this like, we're hunting. We're going out to kill the animal so that we can feed our family for the day. And we're obsessed with we want the job so that we can make a few bucks to pay the bills this week, to feed the family. I mean, all good, and legitimate stuff. But to really develop a career as a voiceover talent, and to really begin to, develop your business, you have to think beyond the jobs, that every job that you get is an opportunity to develop a client. And this is where you take off the performance hat and you put on the business hat, because clients will pay you more than just a job. Clients will give you multiple jobs. A client turns from just a, maybe a $2, $3, $4, $500 job into $5,000, $10,000, maybe $20,000 over the course of the year. I manage my clients like I manage a portfolio of stocks. I want to make sure they're happy. And what keeps them coming back? I do what I say I'm going to do. A lot of voiceover talent are flaky, and they just don't deliver on what they do. You have a chance to really shine by simply doing what you say you will do. And when you deliver on time and you communicate, clients like it, and they keep coming back. And like I said, I manage them like a portfolio of stocks. I've got some clients that I make a lot of money from. I have some clients I make a moderate amount of money from. I have some clients I get a little bit of money from. But it's a portfolio. And when I lose clients, and by the way, I've lost a lot of money through clients over the years, but my income has always increased because I manage it like a portfolio. So when I lose one, no big deal. I pick up another one, or two, or three. So when you start to think that way, then you begin building a career, not just going from, job to job in voiceovers. The next thing I want to encourage you to do is focus on dollars per day, not dollars per job. Everybody's worried about, what should I be paid for this job? Am I getting enough for this job? Is this a fair payment on this job? Well, I'm not saying those are not legitimate questions, but what I'm telling you, when you're first starting, they're probably the wrong questions. And my focus has always been on dollars per day. When I first started, and by the way, this question revolutionized my business. When I first started, my goal was $200 a day. And I thought, if I can make $200 a day, I can make it. I can make this happen. And so that was my focus. I didn't care if I had to have 10 jobs that paid $20 a piece, or I had one job that paid $200. I didn't care. The question I always asked myself was, have I made $200 today? And I let that determine whether I turned down a job or not. And once I consistently hit that goal, I increased to $300, $400, $500. My goal now is $1,200 a day. That's every day when I wake up, that is what I'm shooting for. And if I don't get it, and before I turn down a job, I'm thinking, have I hit my goal for the day? And if I'm not, then I have to think very seriously about that job. And of course, now with my experience and my credits, I'm able to negotiate in a better place than I was 5, 6, or 7 years ago. Set a daily goal. Again, think about, and let me mention this very briefly, and this is a topic of hot debate on the forums, rates. Keep in mind, and I'm telling you this as a person with, as an MBA and with a business background, that the market, clients determine rates ultimately. Not you, not me. I like to think we have that much power. We can set our own rates. Don't get me wrong. We can decline jobs. We have that control. But ultimately, we don't decide what clients will do. The marketplace always determines ultimately the price. We might be able to artificially manipulate it by all kind of, getting together and saying, well, we're not going to do this or we're not going to do that. But ultimately, the clients always have that control. So you just have to understand that and not get frustrated by that and decide whether you're willing to work with that or not. And again, it's a free market, and you have the opportunity and the freedom to say yes or no to jobs. Don't neglect the back end. And I'm going to kind of rush along here for these past few points or these last few points so that we have some time for Q&A. But again, it's not just the front end. It's not just getting that one client or that one job. And it's about developing a client, and it's about keeping them happy. The back end is what you get after you get that job, and it comes by staying in touch. Remember, clients forget about you. You have to stay on their radar. You have to serve them. You have to have a service attitude. If you say you're going to deliver, you need to deliver, because if you don't, there are a lot of people waiting to take your place. Marketing doesn't end with a sale. Again, it's about staying in touch. It's about delivering on your promise. And if you want to get paid, you have to make collections a marketing activity. My collections rate, believe it or not, is 99. It's over 99%. And the reason it is, actually, when I first saw that figure, I couldn't believe it. So we had to go back and double check. And I started asking myself the question, why is it we collect everything or virtually everything that we do? And it's because we never let clients forget about it. We market continually. Every month we're in touch, not in a rude way. We don't threaten. I've never been nasty, never, ever been nasty to a client. I've never threatened anybody. Now, it doesn't mean everybody pays on time, but every month I go back and say, and very professionally and politely let them know what they owe me. And eventually, everybody does pay. So make sure that marketing permeates everything that you do. Eventually, to infinity and beyond. Eventually, your day, believe it or not, will max out. And once you do that, once you begin to cultivate these clients, you're going to reach maximum capacity because you're serving them. You're serving your clients, and they're coming back, and they're referring you to other people. And all of a sudden, you have this momentum going that you never dreamed possible. And then once you hit max capacity, then it's a matter of negotiating with your lower pay clients or letting lower pay clients go, which I've been doing systematically over the past couple of years. Some have renegotiated better rates with me. Others I've simply let go very politely. I'm very grateful for my time with them, but I can no longer afford to keep them because I have marketed to higher paying clients. And that is because think about it, we only have 24 hours in the day. We can't hire out. We can't duplicate our own voice. And so, it's about there's only a couple of ways to increase your income. That's, do more or raise your rates. And so I don't want to work more than 40, 50, 60 hours a week if I can help it. Voiceover is a pretty intense job, as you know. It's pretty physically draining. So you have to be willing to negotiate your rates or let lower pay clients go to take on higher pay clients if you want to increase your income. And then the last thing that I want to leave you with here is simply this. In the end, it's not about being the best, although you want to be the best that you can be. It's about hanging in there. It's about, when you think that you can't make one more phone call, you can't send one more email, it's hanging in there, because most of what I've done in my life is not because I was better than everybody else, but it's because I hung in longer than everybody else. The most talented don't necessarily make the most money. And if you make sure that your product precedes your marketing, and you've got a good product, you have confidence in that, you have a marketing plan that you know will work, and you keep first things first and don't get sidetracked with other stuff. Keeping first things first means keep your product first and foremost. It means doing your daily marketing activities, making your phone calls, sending your emails, staying in touch with your clients. If you do those things and do not get distracted, then eventually you'll do what you need to do. You'll build the momentum that you need to build, and you'll begin to realize your potential and realize that it had some to do with your talent, but it had a lot to do with your tenacity. Ashley?
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Bill. So right now we'll do Q&A. So anybody attending the webinar, if you have any questions, then you're more than welcome to ask them in the Q&A control panel or the chat box. And Bill or myself will be happy to help you out. Okay, so we have a couple questions here. Mark asked, what is the best way to turn down a job from a client but still remain in good graces with that client?
Interesting. I guess it would depend on the reason for turning it down. If I had to turn a job, I'm going to assume that it's based on the fact that it doesn't pay enough. And so a client says, I can pay X number of dollars, and it's just, and you're at a place where you just can't accept that job. I think the main thing is just simply, I think courtesy and politeness go a long way. I think people don't like and they resent attitude. And I think if you present any kind of attitude saying, well, I'm too good to do this, people don't like that. But if you simply say that my schedule is such and the rates that I'm getting are such that financially I cannot accept work that pays that. Although let them know you appreciate the opportunity, you appreciate contacting them. From my standpoint, whenever I've let clients go, which I've done that a number of times, I've always left on good terms with them. They understood and were very happy for me.
Okay. Question from Kimberly. Do you set a daily work schedule every week, like 9 to 5, or do you find splitting up your day works best when you're on a project?
Yeah, well, I do. I average about 9 projects a day that I do. As I've tracked this, which doesn't leave a whole lot of time for time off during the day. So essentially, I work 8 to 4:30 is my recording schedule, and I work straight up till lunch. And I take frequent breaks every 20 to 30 minutes. So I'll go grab a cup of coffee and rest my voice for a couple of minutes. Yeah, and I do drink coffee while I record. I know a lot of people really frown on that, but I drink a lot of coffee when there are a lot of a lot of things that are passed along as being truth and wisdom that I really question. One, again, being drinking coffee while I record. But I work straight to lunch. I take an hour for lunch. I come right back to the studio. I record straight through to 4:30. And sometimes depending on the workload, like this past weekend, I recorded most of the day, Saturday and Sunday, and sometimes in the evening. But it's essentially, like I said, the projects are just kind of stacked up, and there's not a lot of variance. It's like either I'm reading this, that, or the other, but it's all recording. So I'm just working straight through up until lunch, and then straight through up until about 4:30 in the afternoon.
Okay, John asked, is sending a CD of your voice demo an outdated way of getting your voice heard?
Well, no. If they ask for it, it's not. And some, especially agencies, specifically ask for a physical copy, a CD of your demo. If they don't ask for it specifically in physical form, almost every agency will tell you how they want it. And I'm talking agencies right now, and most will allow you to submit online. Now, for general clients, I've never sent physical CDs to prospective clients. Meaning like, video production companies or multimedia production companies. What I do is I send them to my website because I found that that's how most that I've talked to, that's what they have requested and what they ask and what they want. And most business people now, they expect you to have a website, and it's convenient for them. It's convenient. They don't have to stick a disc in a player. They just click, and there you are. So I would only send it, straight to your question, only send it if it's specifically asked for that way.
Okay. Ben asked, is there a better way to open rate negotiations than what is your budget?
No, that is the best way that I have found. That is how I always begin a rate negotiation, because it's the Wild West of rates out there. Rates are everywhere, and that's okay because every business is different. One of my regular clients, I do a lot of work for LG Electronics. I do a lot of their in-store video stuff for like Walmart and Best Buy, and they pay me a certain amount. They pay me very well to do that, which is nice. But it wouldn't make sense for Bob's Electronics to pay me the same rate. Everybody's situation is different. Every budget is dramatically different. And if you get too tied to a rate sheet, now, again, you have every right to do that. And if you want to do that, that's okay. But I think you need to be prepared to know that you're going to limit, I think, the possibilities of the clients that you can work with. But when you start with what is, but if you have an idea in your mind of what you're willing to work with and what you're not, if you let them show their hand first, who knows, maybe they're willing to pay you more than you were anticipating to begin with. But it always helps, and it's always best if you can get them to tell you what their budget is. At least that's been my experience.
Celia asked, if your day is already busy and a regular client needs something done ASAP, but you're already booked, how do you keep them happy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As a matter of fact, that happened today. I am just buried right now with work. I'm doing one of my regular clients that I get work from almost daily. I'm just doing a really big project, a lot of pages of narration, and I have an agent in New York that called today, wanting to know my availability to do a phone patch today or tomorrow. And here's the way I work that. My feeling, my priority, I want to be able to do this job for this New York agent. For one thing, because the job pays quite a bit more. And the other thing is, I know that there's a lot of potential I get a lot of work through this agent, but there's a lot more, and I want to cultivate a really good relationship with them. This other client, and by the way, you have to do this on a case-by-case basis, but my other client, being that I have a relationship with them, it's easier for me to say to them, you know what, I'll get this to you tomorrow instead of this afternoon, unless I promised it. If I promised it, I'll make sure it happens one way or the other. But I juggle based on, how much it's paying, always, though, based on what I say first. In other words, I don't break a promise. But after that, it's based on, the priority is what it's paying. and what my relationship is with that client. And again, I want to make this New York agent happy and keep that work coming. So I'll squeeze them in tomorrow, and I'll put off this other project with this regular client by a day because I haven't promised it. And because I know that I can, because I have that kind of relationship with them. I hope that helps. I mean, there are several variables, and you have to kind of balance them, but that's how I do it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Can you describe, or Bill asked, can you describe a little more how you assigned work to your assistant?
Yeah, I tell you how this started. One of the big things was the audio editing. And when you do as much long-form narration as I do, and you make as many mistakes as I do, you have to do a lot of audio editing on the back end. And I was spending hours a day editing, and I started to think, gosh, if I was actually recording, how much more money would I be making recording as opposed to editing? And if I paid somebody else to edit, it would allow me to do more work because I had a lot more work coming in that I could get done during the day. So it was the realization when the financial light bulb went off in my head. That's really what got me going. But the other thing was I was starting to develop carpal tunnel or repetitive stress injury in my arm because of all of the editing. And maybe I wasn't doing it ergonomically correct. I don't know. And I still have some issues with it. But my forearm was really giving me fits because of all of the editing. And so physically, I needed to make a change too. So audio editing was a big part of that. And then I began to ask myself, what else do I have to do on a day-to-day basis that's not related to those two areas that directly make me money, recording and marketing? And then I realized invoicing was a big one, collections/receivables, that was another big one. There was almost always follow-up work that needed to be done with clients, maybe asking about scheduling of a session or this, that, and the other. And that was something else that I could delegate to an assistant. And now, Mallory, my daughter who does this for me, she has a hard time squeezing everything in during the day. It's crazy. You'll be surprised at what you'll find that you can delegate to somebody else. And even marketing activities, you can, if you're busy recording, you can delegate out maybe the sending of emails to prospective clients. So those are some of the key things that I look at delegating out to an assistant.
Okay, perfect. So that'll wrap up the Q&A. If anybody has any more questions for Bill, then you're more than welcome to check out his website, or you can send me an email, ashley@voices.com, and I will send the question along to Bill, or I can answer it myself. Before we go, I'd like to let Bill explain to everybody that he has a book that is out, and maybe, Bill, you can explain to everybody how you can purchase the book.
Ashley, thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited. I just wrote a book, and it's what is the name of it? It's how to start and build a six-figure voiceover business. Set your voiceover career on fire, and it really covers a lot of what we talked about in this hour, just a little more expanded on. I talked about the old voiceover model and what you need to understand about how that model has changed and really what it takes to succeed. I talk more about the union versus non-union, which I did not address today. And by the way, I am a non-union talent, which allows me a lot of flexibility to do the things that I do to make money that a union talent may not be able to do. Why being an announcer, if you come from a radio or TV background, can really kill your voiceover chances. The performance skills that you need, the office tools every voiceover artist must have, setting up your home studio. I talk about daily workflow, some tricks of the trade for editing your voice work so that you can do higher volumes of work, the importance of a demo, designing a website properly, using your database of clients and prospects effectively to get more work, that and a whole lot more. So it's really just kind of an expanded version of what we talked about this last hour. But the Kindle version is up on Amazon. The paperback version will be up very soon. And actually, I also just wanted to mention just briefly, I do a couple of audiobook seminar workshops per year because I believe it's the fastest, quickest way to make money as a voice talent, especially if you're just getting started. And I hold them in my studio, and I have my own learning center here in the Chicagoland area, but I have it coming up this weekend and a couple seats available. But if you want more information, you can reach me at voiceoverexpert@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate this opportunity.
So before we go, I would like to let everyone know what Voices.com has coming up. We're hosting our very first conference in Toronto called Voice World. It's on Saturday, May 4th at the Toronto Hilton Hotel. And tomorrow is actually the last day for an early bird special that we have going on. So you can check out voiceworldtoronto.com for more information and to register your full conference pass. Here's a list of the complete speakers we have at Voice World Toronto. We have David Ciccarelli, Dan Leonard, Dave McRae, Deb Monroe, Sunday Muse, Ellie Ray Hennessy, David Goldberg, Pat Fraley, Wayne Young, and Stephanie Ciccarelli. So before we go, I'd like to say let's keep in touch. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch many tutorial videos on our YouTube channel, and partake in the discussions going on in LinkedIn. So a big thank you for Bill today. Everyone learned so much from the webinar. Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you for everyone else for attending.
Thanks, Ashley.
Hope you have a great day.
This has been a Voices.com production.